Let me get you scooted to the left a little bit. All right. Hi, this is Siobhan Lindley, CEO of Women Evolution, and I am here today with Katie Brauer, and we're going to be talking about specifically when it's time to demand your worth. And Katie has extensive experience in this because you've held many roles in your life. You've been a professional athlete. You've been an entrepreneur. You've been a part of an executive team of, a very fast-growing organization, and you've had a massive impact in the world of yoga, and are an inspirational speaker. So, there have been these moments in time. You're also a mother. You have a beautiful little girl, Aspen Giselle, who is inside playing with my little girl, Raya, right now. So we can sit out.
They could be sisters.
They can. It's just so funny that I have a blonde hair, blue-eyed baby and looks more like you than me. And you also are a wife and have a husband who's in the military, who, travels a significant period of time. And so not only have you navigated your career path and really followed your passion, but you've also been able to, follow and take care of yourself personally. So let's dig a little bit deeper into these moments and times of your career where you've known a shift needed to be made, where you needed to demand that you were recognized for the work that you've done, and either meaning being paid more or negotiating a sponsorship deal or whatever that may be. There's been just so many situations in your life, and that's how you've gotten from one level to the next in your career. So I'm going to take a step back and let you tell us a little bit about really where that's come from for you and how you've known when, and what maybe are some words that came out of your mouth when you finally had these conversations that other people could learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this, absolutely love this topic of how to demand your worth. And I think that it is not only beneficial, we're talking about it in the context of business obviously today, but it really is, it spans across so many platforms, whether it is in friendships, in intimate relationships, and of course in business. And for me, whether it's been in my snowboarding career or in my business as a yoga professional, and serving on the executive team, negotiating salaries and salary packages and whatnot for myself. And the most important thing, number one, is knowing your worth and having the confidence in yourself of knowing what your scope of practice is, what you can deliver, and being willing to make that deliverable. So for me, I don't have an expectation when I meet a stranger per se. So in my snowboarding career, whether it was sitting down with the guy that wrote the checks in salary negotiation for snowboarding, or whether it's someone on a team of people that I join that are ultimately writing the check or negotiating the salary package, if they don't know me, they don't know me. So I have a few moments in time to, one, get their attention, two, make an impression, and three, walk out of that office with the outcome that I want and that I'm going to be really happy and at peace with. So step number one for me in demanding my own worth, and which I encourage all of you to do, is sit down and take a moment to really think about, like, how much money do I want to make? What exactly is my scope? What are the deliverables that I'm being asked to do? What is that worth to me? Because I think that one piece of it is financial, absolutely. It's how much am I going to get paid? But the other piece is who are the people on the team? What's the environment like that I'm working in? What's the flex time like? There's so many aspects. So it's more than just the money. And for me, I would say that I'm not really motivated by money. Money is not a motivator for me. What's a motivator is impact, and in my life money has always followed. Now that doesn't mean that I work for nothing. There's times when I've been willing to do things for less on a pro bono type thing, because the exchange that's happening is as good as money for me. But then there's obviously many times I need to eat, and I have a baby girl, and I like really nice shoes. I like driving a nice car and that type of thing. So money is important, and it's a critical piece in living on planet Earth. So getting really clear with yourself as what do I want and what is my own worth, and having the self-confidence to land into that. Step number 2 is mapping out what is that going to look like. And oftentimes, I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not, but I'm from Australia. If you notice, I have a bit of an accent, and I was just home for a few weeks, so it might be more strong at the moment than it usually is. But in the Australian culture, money is not a taboo thing to talk about. And I've found living in the States, which I've been here almost 20 years, people tend to get a little bit, not want to really look that conversation in the eye. And for me, it's the same conversation as asking someone, what would you like to eat for dinner? Do you want, steak and vegetables, or would you prefer a salad with chicken? And then asking the reason why. Why do you want steak and vegetables? So that for me is not being afraid to have conversations around money, because it's a necessity for security, for livelihood, for making your life happen, particularly in the way that you want it to unfold. So having clarity on what you want and what your worth is, and then what I would call what is the word? I'm having a mum moment right now of like total brain fog, but just courageous honesty of being willing to put yourself out there in vulnerability. And if you're clear on what you want, putting that stake in the ground and saying, this is it for me, this is what the package needs to look like, or this is what I'm willing to do this particular consulting job for, and holding that stake tight. Because in business, what I have found, particularly, and this is nothing against men, but I never sat down in a salary negotiation through my entire snowboarding career with a woman. It was always a man writing the checks. In my executive, on the executive team that I served on, same deal. Always a conversation with a man. And so I think that it's important to be able to meet, it's been important for me to be able to meet that energy with the same energy of really even noticing my body posture and having the confidence to stand behind, this is what I want. And the words that follow that usually from me, actually not usually, always, it's not a negotiation. And I love using this analogy of being in India. I have loved traveling the world, and I learned so much from being in different parts of the world and different cultures. And in India particularly, I've been there 7 times or 9 times, a lot of times. And there is this amazing dance that goes on between shop owners and customers in purchasing products. And for me, I found the entire process totally exhausting. So I learned very early on in my first trip to India that if I saw something in a store that I liked, I decided, what am I willing to pay for that? And once I decided what I was willing to pay for it, that was what I presented to the shop owner. And of course, they're wanting to barter and go back and forth and whatnot. And no, this is what I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to walk away if you don't give me that item for that amount of money. And I think that that's a key component, is being willing to walk away when you know your worth and it's not met, being willing to walk away until someone else shows up, or you seek someone else that shows up that is willing to pay what your worth is. And in the shop owner example, there were times where I would walk away without an item because they wanted more money for it and I wasn't willing to pay. And there were times where they would meet my request and I would be like, sweet, walk away. And that is the same principle that I have brought into negotiations around salary and salary packages or contracting packages with people, is knowing this is what I'm willing to do and getting a very clear understanding of the scope and the deliverable that they're requiring, and then deciding what that number is and what the extras are. Like, is it requiring me to work on weekends? How many flex days do I get? That type of thing. And then putting that stake in the ground and saying, this is what I want.
The moments before you're going in to have this conversation, in the very, very beginning,
Oh, shit.
all right, we have a little,
I think that I think that it missed all of that.
you think it did? Who is listening? Anybody listening? Tarek, I see you. You're joined. Did you hear us for the last 5-10 minutes? We're going to keep going as if we did, because that's just, I was so into what you were telling me. So
I think that it cut off because I looked over and I saw the thing pop up. I was telling a story about being in India and bartering and, choosing an item and saying, this is what I'm willing to pay for it. And the shop owner saying, either meeting that request or not meeting that request. And that is the same negotiation skill that I've brought into contracts or salary negotiations, is sitting down, knowing what my worth is, knowing the scope of what the deliverable is, being very clear about it and putting that forward in the conversation of, this is what I want.
And what are the words that you say?
It's not negotiable. I'm not into the back and forth thing. I'm into being just a clarity. One, the back and forth for me, it is a waste of energy. You can ask my husband this too, because on our first date, I made him fill out a goal sheet. And he was like, have you seen that movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days? And I said, yeah. He goes, you're doing a really good job. But for me, when we met, I was 32. And one of the questions I asked, do you want children? And he's like, it's our first date. And I said, it doesn't matter, because that's something that I want. And if you don't, there is absolutely no point in us going on a second date. And, his answer to the question was no. And I said, well, it was nice knowing you. I'm not going on a second date. And then all of a sudden he changed his tune, and we do have a daughter. We made a baby.
And he really, really wanted a baby too.
Yes.
That was the funny part,
Yeah.
There's
came full circle.
It was a very full circle. So what I'm told is that the screen just froze for a second, but the sound was live, so everybody heard the original part too.
Oh, perfect.
So good. And they got a double dose and a bonus story. So that's even better.
Yeah.
So when you know it's time, so what are some of the signs for you when maybe you're starting to work outside of an alignment? So, we've been talking a lot about salary negotiation, but sometimes it means a shift in your career path when you need to demand your worth. And that's really, this is where I really need to be spending my time and my energy. Mm-hmm. And so what are some things that come up for you when that starts to, because it's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm out of alignment, right? Like It's a string of things that happen. So for you and your experience, what are some of the signs that there is a misalignment, and do you have what do you do for yourself personally to get very clear around what are the things that you want?
Yeah. I think a telltale sign, and I can speak for me, it might be true for you too, is starting to notice complaining or things that I'm bitching about is usually an indicator that there's something somewhere that's out of alignment. Now that could either be me, that I need to make some shifts and changes in what I'm focusing on, or what I'm doing, what I'm spending my time doing, or it could be an external, something in the external environment that's having an impact on me that is just like, I don't like the way that this is feeling. I'm not liking the effect and the impact that this is having on me. And for me, more recently, there was actually a combination of both. So my transition in my life more recently was really about, the role that I was hired to do, and the goal was achieved, and all of these yoga studios are open across the country, and that was complete. So there was this inner stirring of, I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready to be challenged in a different way. And also there was the external environment piece, where as I mentioned with you earlier, we were offline, but I took 30 plus flights with my daughter between the age of 8 weeks and 8 months, and I was on the road all the time. So the environment really demanded of me being in this go, go, go state, which I got to a point where I was like, this has been great, and it's been like this really fast ride, and I like to go like this.
Why you're only a professional snowboarder.
But then really realizing, you know what, I'm ready to change my tune a little bit. I'm ready to change the rhythm of my life. And so it was a stirring inside, and then also a recognition of like, how are those characteristics playing out in my day-to-day.
And you'd like to have a Friday afternoon where you get to sit in the backyard with me while our daughters play inside.
Yes.
Having, a tea party in there.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
We have
So what an important critical component to recognize, and so many of us get stuck.
Yeah.
In not seeing those patterns, or not being clear that those are signals that something isn't right.
Yeah.
And being able to get very clear. So how do you get clear on what you want?
Yeah.
For you can see those signs, and you've done it so many, but are there any strategies or tips you can give individuals that you've done to say, this is what I need in order for me to stay, or these are the shifts that need to occur in order for me to get to that next step?
Right. Yeah. So I think step one is being in a place in a state of awareness. So observing your own behavior and being willing to recognize, maybe I am ready for a change, and being open to that possibility, because like you said, it's really easy for us as human beings to get into this groove of monotony, of just doing the same, being on the hamster wheel. And so step one is really getting quiet and recognizing and being honest with yourself of like, I'm ready. Something's uncomfortable. Something's not right. Mm-hmm. And with that often comes fear, because, a human condition is to resist change. So, to notice that, wait, well, what does this mean? What does change mean? What is it going to look like? What's it going to look like financially? What's it going to look like schedule-wise? So step one is getting really quiet. Step two is, if you are transitioning out of a job and you're wanting to totally shift gears, of what ultimately, first of all, do you want the outcome to be? And what are all of the components that make up that outcome? Does there want to be a continued relationship with the company that you're involved with? I'm a huge advocate of healthy relationships and ongoing relationships, even in times, way back in the day. This is a long time ago. I got fired from an athletic club that I was working at, and I got offered my job back within 24 hours. But there was like a little bit of headbutting that went on with the manager of that club, and for me, it was, even though she made that choice to get rid of me, I still wanted to go and work out there every day. So I went in and had a conversation with her and said, look, I completely understand your choice to do this. My feelings are hurt and this sucks, but I don't want it to be
on the elliptical tomorrow.
I don't want that to be awkward, because I'm going to do my bicep curls right now. And that's really important, to make it not awkward. And that's always been, for me, the world gets smaller and smaller the older that I get. And I think that having healthy relationships, anytime I've made a mess anywhere, I'll clean it up. That's something that I'm a huge advocate of. So getting really clear about what you want your outcome to be. And for me, in this most recent transition in my life, is moving on and having the freedom and the flexibility, as you said, to be in the backyard on a Friday, or to go to a beach on Wednesday, which I did, which was fabulous, followed by a massage, and to be able to recreate my future in a way that I want it to look like. And so on that note is clarity around the outcome. And if you're in a full-time position, that would be clarity around, what do you want your transition plan to look like? How are you handing off responsibilities? For me, it was really important that the rest of my team members weren't impacted in a negative way. I wanted to make sure I had everything organized and really finish my cycle in my role on this executive team with as much gusto as I'd started it with. So having that and leaving that positive imprint, and being really proud of what I accomplished as an individual and also as a team member.
Mm-hmm. Has there been a time, I think what you've said so far, I mean, I know I'm going to take with me throughout some situations that I am going to come across. I mean, I've just learned so many things. And I'm wondering, because I know they're as clear as you are, and they're feeling these things, and there's a deep down inside saying, well, what if they don't meet my request?
Right.
And they say no, and they don't get hired back the next day. You know, has a situation happened where it didn't really work out the way you thought and you had to shift something? Does that happen?
Yeah, so I think that this is a really good point, is that when you're clear on what you want and what your worth is, and there's a stake in the ground in that conversation, there's also a huge risk. Because for me, I tend to be very much an all or nothing person, so I have always been willing to take the risk of that person's either going to meet my needs, my worth, my value, or they're not. And I'm willing to walk away with nothing but my worth. Because when I have not been met, and that has happened many a time throughout my life, it's not like it's just always been smooth sailing on this golden yellow brick road. But I have always walked away really proud that I held my ground. And the funny thing about it is that when that one company or that one CEO didn't meet it, and I walked away, guess what happened a week or a month later? Someone did come in and meet that amount of money or that contract or whatnot. And that has always been very reassuring to me of, okay, it may not happen in the way that I want it to happen with the person I want it to happen, but in knowing and having clarity around this is what's true for me and this is my value, and staying really connected to that, it always has worked out.
Wow.
And I think that it's a scary thing because there's risk involved, you know, like especially being a mom,
I'm
wife,
getting
having a
goosebumps. I mean,
mortgage.
there's a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
especially with a family, with a significant other. If you are, you know, bring in 50% of the income and
Yeah.
you make that decision. But the idea is that you're not making this decision like that.
Right.
You've put so much thought, time, energy, and clarity around it that you probably have had this conversation with your significant other in advance too. It's
Well,
not new
yes
to them
and
either.
no. And I would say that my husband, he definitely is much more of on the safety side. But I'm thinking right now of a salary negotiation that I had a few years ago, and you know, I said to the person on the other side of the table, like, this is what it has to be. It's not negotiable. And if it's not this, I know that in a few weeks from now or a few months from now, I'm going to be driving to work resenting my job. And it's just so precious. And, you know, he sort of was looking at me on the other end of the table, just like, seriously, like I just was not willing to budge. And again, that's the piece, is in that moment I was willing to, as I've said, walk away with nothing and walk away with no job, then settle for something less than what I know is going to feel right for me at the end of the day, that has me fired up to get into work, get up and go and make things happen. Because I think that when people do settle for less than what they know is their truth, it spawns dis-ease, and it plays out in your friendships, in your relationships, you know, with your significant other. Oh no.
I think we're still on.
Okay.
So sorry, we're just running low on my phone. Battery is running a little low. So we're all good though, because we're getting you finish your thought, because I don't want to.
I totally have lost my track of thought. But yeah, I think that when your external environment is less than what you're feeling inside, it has a tremendously negative effect on you and everyone around you. And I think that living bravely and living courageously and taking risks, and I don't mean going out there and being completely reckless, but as you said before, calculated risks is necessary, because it's a key component also in feeling alive. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. This was good.
We need to do this. We need to do like a weekly chat.
Yeah, we're gonna do a weekly chat. This is amazing.
With a full battery.
With a full battery this time. You know, this is only Facebook Live number 3 for me. So I had a wireless mic this time, so hopefully it was very clear, even though we were outside. It only took us 3 tries to get this live. you know, that's just what the live world is. And that's, I think, a part of why I wanted to do Facebook Live versus doing radio like I did, is you can see the look on my face. You can maybe see me sweat a little bit and get a little uncomfortable, but that's what happens when you try and tell these stories. And that's how we're going to really be at a place where we can raise more leaders and step into our full potential, and be able to have more women in executive level positions, more women running for office, more women, you know, building nonprofit organizations and being strong, you know, footholds in the community. All of that's going to happen when we can recognize, value, and leverage the differences between men and women, our unique values, and when it's time to put a stake in the ground and claim our worth. So thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
For sharing all of your amazingness with us. Katie Brauer, I'm going to put a link to her her Facebook public figure page, because you want to stay
just so you know, I've
connected.
been in mum mode for a while, so it's updates coming.
Yeah, no. We're all a work in progress, right? Yeah. One thing at a time. This week is you having done your own claiming of your worth, and now you get to reap those benefits and just enjoy while you're in the middle of this next transition. And so there's so much ahead for this woman, and she's already had like 17 lifetimes, and I learned so much from her. So stay connected to Katie Brauer, and this has been Siobhan Lindley TV, CEO of Women Evolution. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you at our next Facebook Live, which, by the way, happens whenever, whatever day, whatever time is right for me. I don't have a consistency, because that's just not how my life works at this moment. So
love it.
Today it's Friday at lunchtime. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.